So today we're going to talk about a problem that exists in a lot of venues, and that is the mix position not being where it should be. This particular venue is a church, and this console is located in a balcony, and you'll notice the balcony doesn't really have seats. It's got a few left, but most of the balcony's been turned over to technical services. So when you're sitting up here and you're mixing, you got a couple of things that are challenging.
Are you challenging me?
The first one being that the majority of the seats are down there. So that's who you're actually mixing for. And then your sound system is here, and it's got separate down elements. It's a left-right cluster system. And then there's subwoofers mounted underneath the platform down there. And then you probably can't see them from here, but there's delay speakers under the balcony. We'll go down and look at those as well. But then the mix position is back here. So when you're mixing from this position, there's a separate element firing up here at the balcony that lets the engineer hear at least a reasonably good variety of mids and highs. And of course, the opposite side of the room is way over there. So you're mixing for the typical left-right scenario where you're really off-center of the system. If you were to mix on-center, you'd be here. And in this case, that's not a viable seat.
Oh, boy, my favorite seat. Excuse me, do you mind?
So your mix position is not referencing to the people you're mixing for. So let's go take a walk downstairs and kind of get a sense of how different this environment is. So coming in from the back of the room, you can see that there are some EAW JF60s, which are the under balcony fills. And you'll notice that from the seats I'm walking through right now, you can't even see the main clusters. Now, bass energy and mid energy, most of it reverberant, gets under here, and these I'm sure give enough mid-high energy to have some clarity underneath. But the chances of this sounding the same as what the person upstairs is mixing from, not particularly good.
How are you? Not great, Bob.
Now you get out to this part of the room, middle edge of the balcony. Now you've got clear cluster coverage with delay fill. So you've got some reasonable good definition at that location. You've got the far speaker on the other side creating some phase problems to this location. But you still, really need to have some idea of what this sounds like. So you really need to have some idea of what this location sounds like relative to what you're mixing upstairs. When you get down past the under balcony in the front, when you get down here, you've got a couple of things going on. Number one, you've got a subwoofer. So if you're located here with the main cluster, this is all direct field, and obviously it's going to sound a lot different than the way it sounds up there where you're mixing from. And because it's a left-right that was installed due to what was available for locations as opposed to what's possible acoustically, the only place you get bass coupling in this room is down this center aisle. So in this location, you've got coherent left-right bass. When you get off to one side or the other, you start having phase cancellations of various types. So once again, this mix position is there. So you're hearing a phase-canceled version of bass from where you're located in the balcony. So anytime you're mixing in an environment like this, it's really important to do two things. One is to come into the venue and walk it with some program material and really get an idea of how it sounds in various locations. The last thing you want to be doing is making mix decisions based on what you think it sounds like up there, only to find out that you're vaporizing people down here.
This is the worst.
The next thing that would be highly advisable, if you have the time and the energy, is to take frequency response measurements of average seats here, average seats out there, your position in the balcony and have some idea how you would correct your mix based on what you're hearing where you're mixing from. So let's go see if we can get some program material on and walk this room a little. So this is a series of measurements that were taken. You've got the mix position is here in pink, and you've got all of the various main seating areas, over balcony, under balcony. That's a different place. I think maybe it's a spell check problem. Hard to say. But anyway, if you look at this, these are 10 dB increments here. So going from the median of this is kind of a plus or minus 5 dB environment for the most part, other than at low frequencies, there's some real low bass that occurs on the main floor and most other parts of the lower area of this auditorium that literally is just not audible up in the balcony. Now you've got a good punch at 63, so you've got kick drum and other things that are going to be audible up there. But the really low bass stuff just doesn't happen upstairs, and that's just got to do with the physics of the building. So rather than try to ferret out all of the different responses from the mix position, and this is getting back to how do you rationalize the way you mix when your mix position is not in the main seating area, I recommend that you take the primary seating area. Now, we reverse the pink just so we can make things confusing. So now the mix is yellow. If you take this as your mix position, you recognize two things right away. Real low bass is off, and it's off by 10 dB or so, which is a significant amount of energy. So even at 63, if you were to punch up the kick drum so that it was hitting you in the chest in the balcony, people would be having their chest caved in on the main floor, which is something you probably don't want to do.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
It jumped up a notch.
It did, didn't it?
Yeah, I stabbed a man in the heart.
I saw that. Brick killed a guy.
Now, once you get past this low frequency problem, which you just have to learn, and you have to just be looking at an FFT or something in the balcony while you're mixing and make sure that the shape of this curve, you kind of have a memory of it. Now, you can do one of two things. We use a lot of different software and the things we do. You could store this in an FFT, recall it, and have it there as kind of a reference level, which is something I recommend. Is you go in, you play some music, you get a reference mix that sounds good at the mix position, and then go see what's going on the main floor. And you have some reference curves to look at while you're mixing, and you just kind of remind yourself that if I start punching the bass too much, people will die. Looking at the main floor, you've got these other areas, this 1 to 2K region where there's a lot more of that on the main floor. There's some more 4K, and overall there's some more level. There's also quite a bit of 250 on the main floor that isn't in the mix position. There's cancellations happening in that location. So same thing, it should sound a little thin in the low mids while you're mixing. It should sound, possibly a little lacking in the mid-range, and that would be considered normal. So once you get these kinds of curves recorded, like I say, I don't recommend trying to think about all of that. Think about your primary seating area and your mix position, and just learn how to make that conversion at your ears while you're doing things. And you'll probably make everybody a lot happier than if you ignore this problem.